gonna jump right in. Thanks everyone for joining us for our October Ask the Organizer event. It is aligning to seasonal rhythms, and we're really excited to have a special guest this month, Tiffany Crystal Hinton. I'm gonna read you a little bio about Tiff, and then we'll let her take it away. So Tiffany Crystal Hinton, better known as Tiff, is the founder and CEO of Wild Mama, an ecosystem dedicated to facilitating the healing and wholeness of mothers through reconnection to themselves, each other, and the land. After spending 14 years trying to figure out how to be a great mother, pursue her career goals and ambitions, and trying to heal from trauma, but finding very few holistic resources to help, she founded Wild Mama to fill this gap. She now has the honor of working full-time, helping mamas build an unwavering commitment to themselves, not only to the benefit of their children and community, but the next 7 generations. When not working on Wild Mama, Tiff's hanging with her family, swimming, hiking, reading, and enjoying avocado toast and an iced chai with almond milk at her favorite cafe. And Tiff is joining us from Honolulu today. So
Yay.
we're so excited to have you, and we'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's really good to meet you and to spend the next little bit less than an hour together. So I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides for us. Can everybody see it? Awesome. Okay, welcome to aligning to seasonal rhythms, using the natural rhythms and cycles of nature to clear your internal clutter. And like what said, I'm Tiff. I live in Honolulu, Hawaii. I have 3 kids. And yeah, I'm super excited to share just a little glimpse of what I do using seasonal rhythms to kind of check in with myself on a regular basis and clear my own internal clutter. And this is our mantra at Wild Mama. We need healed mothers. We need whole mothers. We really believe that mothers are the roots of the earth. And when mothers are well, we can all be well. So that's kind of what we lean into. But even if you're not a mother today, everything that I created in this presentation is meant for you. So my intentions for today are to give you all the opportunity to not only learn together, but have time to also check in with yourself and do some reflection. We will talk about how aligning to the seasons, the rhythms and cycles of nature can help you sort and clear your internal clutter more often to avoid it from piling up. Also, many of us are used to giving thought to our external physical spaces. So today I'd like to invite you to bring your awareness to your internal space. So we'll do a mini check on your internal space and see how it's going. We'll understand how our internal space directly impacts our external reality. We'll identify some of your deeper needs, and then we'll wrap with some fall seasonal reflections. So some things that you'll need that will be helpful today, if you don't already have it, is a notebook to reflect in writing, because we will be doing some active reflecting during the call. A pen or colorful pens, or a crayon, colored pencils, whatever you want to write with, but just something to write with, and then an open mind and an open heart. So introducing aligning to seasonal rhythms. There's also so much that I could say in this presentation, but I'm just going to keep it really simple and clear. And so there's a lot more where this came from. But I hope that, the little introduction that I could give you still brings value to you. So we're all familiar with the rhythms and seasons, at least in our side of the world. So we have fall, winter, spring, and summer. And my beautiful friend Brennan, shout out to Brennan, created this beautiful collage for us at Wild Mama. So aligning to the rhythms and cycles of nature, it really creates connection. So by giving us the opportunity to slow down, pause, and check in with ourselves and just our environment overall. So the seasonal rhythm creates a natural ebb and flow, creating space for pause as the seasons change, which enables us to shift from always being on. Raise your hand if you always feel kind of on, or you have to be on, to having permission to actually also ebb and flow, to create space to reflect on what we may be needing at any given time. So seasons aren't just reflective of the weather and the changing colors of leaves. They're also reflective of shifts in nature, which also is reflective of potential shifts in each of us. So how do we align to the seasons? It's actually really simple. Each season is tied to a different intention. It's actually tied to a different direction, but I won't go too far into that. And at each season's change, we can then realign to that intention. So I'm going to go through and share some of what those intentions are in just a little bit. But we can use each intention that's tied to each season as a way to guide our reflections or reground ourselves when we're feeling a little bit lost sometimes. So raise your hand if sometimes you feel a bit lost in your life from day to day. Oh yeah. We all experience that at times. So these seasons each have an intention tied to them. And so I want to break it down a little bit for you to help you understand what those intentions are. So this is a great time to write if you do have your pen and paper. So spring is actually connected to the east direction. So if you think of a compass, right, you have the north, the south, the east, and the west. So the spring is tied to the east direction and is all about awakening. It's a time for new growth and possibility. It's also the start of the seasonal new year. So sometimes, you might not feel the whole new year, new you in January. And that's actually because that's aligned to the Gregorian calendar versus the seasonal calendar. So the spring is actually the start of the new year. It's not actually January. January is tied to winter when you should actually be resting and reflecting. So if you ever feel bad because you're not ready for new year, new year, new year, new you, I'm giving you permission now to not feel bad and to just align to the seasons and know that you're actually right on time. So spring is the real new year, new you, and a great time to pause and be present to what is awakening within you and what new sprouts might be emerging. So some reflection questions that you could ask yourself in the spring are: what's arising within me? What ideas, inspiration, and visions are stirring up in me? How can I pause so I can hear my intuition? And how can I create space to be present to watch the sunrise taking place within me? So I know you might not have time to write these things down, but we are creating a blog post together with Big Rocks. And so all of this will be in there so you can refer back to it if you actually want to use these prompts to help you in each season.
Thank you, Tiff.
Yeah. So summer is connected to the south direction and is all about practice. So it's a time to allow for new growth that takes place in the spring, to be nurtured and expanded a little bit more. So this is when it's time to like lean into imperfect action. So imperfect action is one of our core values at Wild Mama. It's something that I really align to personally, and it just gives you permission to come out of perfectionism and still take action on the things that you desire or the ideas that you have or the visions that you have without it needing to be perfect. So some of the reflection questions that you could ask yourself in the summer are: how can I create space for myself to take imperfect action to practice my ideas? What kinds of habits and routines can support me practicing showing up for myself? What do I need this summer? And what would I like to prioritize? And what would I like to deprioritize? And then we have fall, which is the season that we're currently in right now. We just came into fall. So fall is more connected to the west direction and is all about purpose. Now, purpose, unfortunately, can often be put on a pedestal, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I don't know my purpose. But in Wild Mama, we really simplify purpose to simply meaning aligning to the energy of your soul or your deepest desires, whatever that might be at the moment. That's always what we believe our purpose is to align to the honest desires that is coming from within. So we want to lean into purpose in the spirit of experimentation and discovery, which allows us to take intentional action. So some reflection questions that you could ask yourself in the fall are: what transformation am I seeking and making possible by showing up for my purpose? What's working so far for me and what would like to stay in my life? What's not working well and what would like to be let go of? And what space do I need to create to support me in showing up for my purpose and the spirit of experimentation and discovery. And then last but not least, winter. I love winter, even though I don't like the snow. So I don't actually necessarily like the winter season sometimes with the snow, if you're in a place that snows. But I like winter in its intention, because it's all about death and rebirth. And it's probably the season that creates some of the largest and biggest opportunity for progress and growth, but sometimes is avoided because it's not easy. So winter is really where true progress can take place because we can progress. We can't really progress in our lives without taking time to assess where we've been, and what we'd like to let go of so that we can decide where we want to go, and reflect on what we want to bring into our lives, especially into the new year, which, as we talked about already, after winter comes spring, and that's the actual new year, aligning to the seasons. So some reflection questions that you can ask yourself in the winter is, what have I learned along my journey this year? How can I make space to rest, reflect, rejuvenate, and repair in order to check in with myself? What thoughts, patterns, and habits have been serving me, which have not and are ready to die and be released? And where have I accumulated either mental, spiritual, or physical clutter? And what wants to remain and what wants to go? So those are some of the intentions of each season. And so decluttering our internal space is not necessarily about finding perfection or never having some clutter or challenges, right? We're all about imperfect action. It's about maintaining connection. It's a relationship. So aligning to the seasons allows us the opportunity to maintain our connection with ourselves by facilitating space to reflect and see where we are, what we need, and what might no longer be serving us. So I hope that in our short time together today, that it helps you strengthen your connection back to yourself, and not just yourself, but the rhythms and cycles of nature, and gives you a small window into how to do that reconnecting back, to yourself on a more regular basis. So now let's enter your internal space together. So, what is your internal space? So, your internal space is your internal home, also known as your inner world. So, you can liken it to a whole ocean, like this beautiful picture, that lives inside of you. It's an entire world full of depth, life, caves with known and unknown wonders. And it's a place that actually governs and dictates our motivations, actions, beliefs, fears, and joy. But as many of you are well aware, unfortunately, many of us have become so disconnected from ourselves and this part of ourselves that we end up suppressing some of the needs of our inner world, resulting in an accumulation of clutter over time. So we could have been here, but sometimes we're here. And there's no judgment in that. It's just the reality and also the society that we live in, that we're not often taught how to deal with our inner world, how to clear clutter, how to heal. And so inevitably over time, we accumulate a lot of clutter. And again, there's no judgment in that because it happens to all of us. But as we know, in a physical home, or just like a physical home, a buildup of internal clutter over time can cause problems. And if left undealt with, will inevitably spill over into your physical life. That's just a given. So why would you want to check in with your inner world? It comes back to connection. So I believe that a lot of the disease that many of us face is due to the disconnection that we're experiencing within ourselves every day. And that disconnection from ourselves causes disconnection with others and disconnection from the land, creating a very lonely world, even in a time of hyper connection due to the internet, social media, and all the things that are supposed to connect us. Many of us are lonelier than ever. So our mission at Wild Mama is to facilitate healing and wholeness through reconnection to ourselves, reconnection to each other, and reconnection to the land. But we know that after long periods of time of disconnection, with ourselves, it can actually be hard to reconnect. It can be kind of scary. It's like an old friend that you want to reconnect with, but it's been a long time. And you're like, this is a little awkward, or I'm not sure, so it's similar. So what we do is we root ourselves back into the rhythms and cycles of nature first, back to grandmother earth, as a way of reconnecting back to those cycles, and a way to reconnect back with ourselves. So by reconnecting back to kind of our origins, or where we came from, we can then remember who we actually are, which helps us reestablish authentic connection, not only with the land, but ourselves and also each other. Which also, this picture is just gorgeous. I just love it. So we're not meant to be disconnected. We are not meant to be disconnected. We're meant to be whole, and we're meant to be connected. And it doesn't have to be as hard as sometimes it feels. So I want us to do a little quick check-in with ourselves, okay? I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock, and I want you to assess where you are in connection with yourself, in connection with others, and with connection to the land. So are you feeling connected to yourself? Are you feeling disconnected from yourself? Are you in a kind of a process of reconnecting with yourself? And then I want you to ask, am I feeling connected to others? Do I feel disconnected from others? Or am I in a process of reconnecting with others? And then lastly, do I feel connected to the land? Do I feel disconnected from the land? Or am I in a process of reconnection? So I'm going to put 1 minute on my timer, and I'm going to give each of you a moment to check in and reflect on how you're feeling. So 1 minute starting now. Okay, 1 minute is up. Does anyone feel comfortable sharing where you're feeling? And it's not to put anyone on the spot, but I think it's nice when we can share a little and normalize how we might be feeling. Whit, how
I,
are you feeling? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh,
Who's
no
that?
problem.
Go ahead, Kayla.
Yeah, just one thing I thought of and wrote down was that I feel like I feel a little bit disconnected from the land. And I
Mm,
feel like that happens when I get busy. It's like, less time outside. I don't take walks as often, like things that I feel like I don't usually prioritize when I'm
mm,
busy. Those are like the first things that fall off. But I've also noticed, like, I don't know, I feel like walking always makes me feel better if I'm in like
yeah,
a negative headspace. So I feel like that's something I'm aware of and want to do more of.
yeah, I love that. Thank you, Kayla. Whit.
Yeah, I agree with Kayla with feeling easily disconnected from the land.
Mm.
So I used to be a master gardener, love to garden and grow
Oh,
things that
wow.
people can eat. Yeah. But I've been traveling quite a bit this summer and fall, so the garden is like totally overgrown. So this weekend, my plan, it's supposed to be beautiful weather. My plan is just to reconnect with the land by kind of harvesting everything that's left and taking down the garden for the fall, planting the overwintering crops, things like
Beautiful.
that. Yeah.
Yay. Thanks for sharing, Whit.
Uh-huh.
Jess, you want to share?
Yeah, I think I'm probably the opposite. I usually do not lose my connection with others. I have pretty strong connections with the people in my circle, which feels good, but I always feel like I'm in like the state of reconnecting with myself because my
Mm.
focus is always so external.
Yeah.
But as far as the land, I don't ever feel disconnected from the land. You know, I live in an apartment building in the city, and I'm lucky enough to have trees outside my window. And this time of year, we get like flooded with crows at about 6 o'clock every
Oh,
night. And
wow.
I just sit on my bed and watch them. And, you know, I'm not in nature necessarily. I'm not gardening. I'm not touching the land, but I always feel grounded in nature, even when I'm in the
Mm,
city.
I love
I
that.
don't know exactly why, but I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Corinne, did you want to share?
Yeah, I ended up like circling all three for connection with others. I feel
Yeah.
like there's people that I feel super connected with, people
Mm,
that I'm enjoying reconnecting with right now, and then also people who I'm feeling far away from. So it
yeah.
was, yeah, all the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. I love that. And it's never black and white. So I love that openness to kind of seeing the whole picture. That's awesome. Jean H, you want to say anything?
Okay. Well, as far as myself, I feel kind of scattered all the time. I am I don't know. I have so many little things that I have to do that I kind of forget what I was doing because I'm trying to do the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not very relaxed. But I think I have a pretty good connection with the land because I feed the birds, I water my yard and my plants. I almost think of them all as my babies.
I love that.
And I also like, I think it was Kayla. I actually need to take more walks, and because that's good for you, and that's good
Yeah.
for yourself. That's good for connecting with yourself as well,
Yeah.
nature. So I need to do that, and it's nice to hear from other people because it gives me ideas, you know, what I'm should be thinking about too.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
thank you,
Thank
Tiff.
you. Yeah, thank you. Sharon?
I'm here. Can I kind of feel disconnected in some areas of my life, and then I definitely feel like I'm reconnecting.
Mm,
And that has a lot to do with where my children are in their lives,
yeah.
trying to stay connected to them and what's going on with them. And yet you have to, as a parent, take a step back. You're no longer the queen the family. You have to blend in with what is going on with the rest of your family also. And
Yeah.
right now that's kind of important to me.
Mhm.
I like to be outside and work around my flower beds and stuff, but I haven't been able to do that because I get a little lightheaded, and if I reach down to pull a weed out or something, I might just roll right on over.
And we don't want that.
No, we don't want that. Wanted that in the eighth grade when I had to do a tumbling.
Right. That's right. Thank you, Sharon. Jean, is there anything you'd like to add? The other Jean.
Um, yeah, sure. So right now I feel too connected to my goals and my focus as a mom,
Yeah.
and that makes me feel like I'm disconnected to what I to the things that I used to do, like
Mm.
traveling and being active, like working out all
Mhm.
the time, because of me being busy all the time with me homeschooling my kids. So I kind of feel disconnected to that. And
Yeah.
but right now I feel like I'm trying to reconnect to like doing what I love, and try to be active a few days a week and eating healthy.
Mm.
So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think what you all can see is as you start to, if you do decide to start kind of being more in tune with the seasons, you'll see that it changes, right? Like in the fall season, you might feel a little bit more disconnected in some ways and connected in others. And then in the summer, feel totally different. And so that's kind of the point, is that with each season, we can check in with ourselves, and we can see where we're at, recognizing that it does evolve and it does change. And I think a lot of the messaging from our greater society is that it's static, or that you should be striving for the status quo, which doesn't change. But that's not how nature works. That's not actually how we work. And so by aligning to the season, it gives you that permission to ebb and to flow and to be okay if you're sometimes disconnected, because you can always come back to reconnection. So I think that this can kind of show you a little bit of that. So thanks y'all for sharing. So are you ready to go a little deeper into your inner world? I love this avatar little GIF. I think it speaks to exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so let's go a little deeper now into our inner world. So we're talking about clutter, right? So how do you know if you have any internal clutter? And again, we're not approaching this with any sort of judgment. It's just for our awareness. So I'm going to share some symptoms of internal clutter. There are many symptoms I could share, but I'm going to share 12 today. And so I want you to note in your notebook which of the symptoms resonate with you. Okay, so symptom number 1, you struggle to focus and have clear thoughts. We've already heard that today. Symptom number 2, you sometimes lash out at family or friends, sometimes colleagues. You don't mean to do it, but it happens. Symptom number 3, you feel irritable, but you don't know why. Symptom number 4, you feel numb and disconnected from yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be always, but it could be sometimes. Symptom number 5, you struggle to get rid of physical clutter, even when you really want to. Symptom number 6, you cope through buying things that you don't need. We all do that sometimes, right? Symptom number 7, you have persistent feelings of overwhelm. Symptom number 8, you feel perpetually restless, even after a full night's sleep. Symptom number 9, you feel anxious a lot, even when it feels like you shouldn't, like there's nothing to be anxious about. Symptom number 10, you constantly feel there's never enough time. Symptom number 11, you struggle with letting go of anything. It could be resentments, it could be your own guilt, it could be physical things, but you just struggle to let go. And then symptom number 12, you feel like you're floating and without a sense of direction. So I have the summary of them here because I know I went through them kind of fast. So these are all the symptoms. Again, there can be 1,000 symptoms I could share, but these are just some of them. And so I want you to look at the symptoms, note the ones that you resonate with, and then just put in the chat how many out of 12 you resonate with. So it can be 6 out of 12, 3 out of 12, 12 out of 12, 10 out of 12. Again, putting it in the chat is not about putting yourself, on the spot. It's about normalizing for all of us that we all go through these things. And I think that that can be a really powerful thing. So we got 5 out of 12, 4, we got 9. Look at that. Great. So we're all struggling in some way, shape, or form. And again, there's never any judgment, but we can't improve something we're not willing to look at, right? So we got 3 out of 12. Great. Awesome. Thank you. So keep note of that for later. Yes, 8 out of 12. Okay. So symptoms, I'm not going to get too far into this because I could talk about this in a whole presentation, but symptoms, I just want to know, are never actually the root cause. So sometimes when we see all the symptoms like, oh my God, I have 9, I have 8, that's a lot. It can feel overwhelming, but symptoms are actually never the root cause. They're only meant to point you in the direction of the root cause if you're willing to pay attention. So a lot of what we do in my program and my work with mamas is we actually look at the symptoms to look for patterns. And when you can find patterns, you can start to get to the root. And when you can get to the root, that's when you can actually start to heal the things that are deeply going on. So I have a whole process for that we just don't have time to get into today. But I wanted to give you this so that you don't leave this workshop feeling overwhelmed that you have so many symptoms that you're experiencing. But just to let you know that usually it's a couple of root causes that are tied to all of those symptoms. And so it's better to try to think about the patterns that you're seeing to identify the root rather than get overwhelmed and try to solve each individual symptom. So that I'll just leave you a little bit with that. So what are some examples of internal clutter? So some examples, I'm going to read some of these, and then I'm going to let you take a minute to kind of just jot down any that resonate with you. And as I'm reading them, some of them might directly resonate and something might just be triggered in your mind that, oh, that might be something that I need to take a look at, okay? So it might directly be in this list, but it might be something that just kind of comes to mind. So beliefs that may or may no longer serve you, hurts and past traumas that haven't been resolved, past versions of yourself that need attention and given space to speak, habits and behaviors that have become default and gone unassessed to see if they're even still relevant, inherited values that directly impact your actions and the decisions that you make. So one thing about inherited values, just so that you understand what that term means, it's literally values you inherit from society, from your parents, from your family, culture, religion. There's lots of values that we tend to take on, and another word we use at Wild Mom is called default values. So these are just things that we tend to just have, and sometimes we live by, but they're not values that we've necessarily consciously chosen for ourselves because that's what we value. And so sometimes if you've ever felt a little bit disconnected with your habits and feeling, or your behaviors, and feeling like the behavior doesn't reflect who you feel like you are, it could mean that you're actually operating from an old inherited default value that just hasn't been looked at or changed. And then guilt, shame, and embarrassment, grief, self-hate, self-loathing, or deep self-neglect, unresolved questions about your life, direction, and purpose, that untouched to-do list that's been in your mind for weeks, months, maybe even years, and then unfulfilled dreams, desires, and ambitions that have fallen to the wayside. So feel free to screenshot this if you need to, but some of these might resonate, some may not, and some may just trigger other thoughts of possible internal clutter that you might have. So I just want you to take a note of those things that are kind of resonating with you. Okay.
I believe these are in the blog post too, Tiff.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Okay. So from all of this reflection that we've done, we've been here together about 36 minutes. So a lot has already started to emerge. So in that, I want you to start to think about what are some of the deeper needs that you're kind of starting to notice. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock, right? It doesn't take that long for these things to emerge, but we've already started to kind of shake and move things around inside of you a little bit, that you could start to see some of the needs that you have. Some of you already mentioned, oh, I could really use a walk, or I could have some time outside, or I could spend some time a little bit more with myself because I'm too externally focused on other people. And it's not that we don't want to serve other people, but we don't want to do it at the detriment of ourselves. So from this little tiny time of reflection that we've had, I want you to kind of notice some of those deeper needs that might be emerging for you and just write them down. Okay. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock so that you can have some time to kind of write out some of the needs that are emerging for you. Starting now. Okay, time is up. So obviously you can spend more time reflecting, in the coming weeks. But it's good to note like some of the needs that are coming up, because once you identify the needs, then you can fulfill them, right? You could do something about it. Okay. So I just want to recap so far what we've done and what we've uncovered. So we reviewed some seasonal rhythms and how to align to them. We've defined your internal space or your inner world, your internal home, and that it's a vast space that exists within us. We've also recognized, though, that many of us have or can become disconnected from our internal space, which can cause clutter to accumulate over time. We've determined that the value of checking in on your inner world often is the connection that it allows with ourselves, with others, with the land, and ultimately that we're not meant to live disconnected, but whole. Then we determined our current state of connection with ourselves, others, and the land, and then identified the symptoms that we've been experiencing, the types of inner clutter we might be holding on to, and then what needs of ours are emerging so far through our mini ocean sea dive within ourselves. So we've done a lot in just a little bit of time. And have already uncovered so much. So identifying and clearing clutter doesn't have to be complex or take forever. It does take work, but it doesn't have to take forever. And we can use the changing seasons as a time to do this level of checking in with ourselves on a more regular basis, especially so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. As you know, clearing a full house all in one sweep, sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes it's a lot. So doing a little bit over time can really make a difference. So raise your hands if you feel that taking the time to check in like this has been valuable to you. Definitely to me. Yeah. And then who would appreciate a process for checking in with your internal world a little bit more often? Yeah, too. And I love it. Yes. So this is your process, aligning to the seasonal rhythms. This is the process. So I literally, in a practical, very practical way, this is what I do every single season. So just like right now, we just finished summer and we're coming into fall. So I took time at the end of summer, coming into fall, and I did reflection. I reflected on a bunch of prompts, some of them that I shared with you today. And some others I thought about, where I'm at, what I need, what's changed, what's going well, what's not going well. And then I personally identified, well, what needs do I have then for the fall season? And then I thought about the fall intention and then thought about, okay, well, how do I meet those needs? What do I need to shift and what do I not? And I'll do the same from fall into winter and winter into spring. So if you have been feeling like, oh my goodness, it's so busy, there's so much going on, I don't have time to stop, at least you can gift yourself 4 times a year to reflect. If you don't do anything, 4 times, that's not that bad. That's not a heavy, high ask, but you could gift yourself at least 4 times a year where you can pause and check in. You can literally put it in your calendar today, which is what I do. And I just have a timer kind of like the week in between seasons where I'll take some time to step back and I'll reflect and I'll actually, figure out where I'm at, what I need, and what needs to change. And that allows you to live in a much more empowered place versus a disempowered place, feeling like you're always just on the go and can't ever stop. This allows you to take your power back and say, no, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to reflect. And then, with that, you tend to stay a little bit more aligned throughout the season. But even if you don't, you at least know, okay, in the winter, I'm going to check in the spring, I'm going to check in summer and fall. So this is a really practical, very simple tool that you can start doing today. And I do it myself all year long through all the seasons. And I actually do monthly check-ins as well as weekly, but you don't have to do that. Just start here and give yourself this gift. But this is the process. So it's very simple. So because we're coming into fall, we're in fall now, I thought that we could use a little bit of our remaining time to actually do some fall reflection. Why not practice, right? So this is imperfect action. And again, we're always so busy. So I really wanted this workshop to be a time where we could actually be reflecting and checking in with ourselves. So again, fall is all about purpose, and we're defining purpose as aligning to the energy of your soul or your deepest desires, whatever it is at that given moment. And so fall is all about getting into alignment with that. And so I have 3 questions of the 4 that I'm going to just give you 4 minutes to just reflect on these, take some time to yourself, think about this, take all that you've already reflected on with the symptoms, with the potential internal clutter, with the needs that you have, and bring that into this reflection for the fall. Okay, so I'm going to put 4 minutes on the clock. I'm going to give you space to reflect, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay, so 4 minutes starting now. Okay, time is up. So I hope that you can also see that even just a few minutes of intentional reflection can go a long way. So a lot of times we kind of count ourselves out of doing this kind of thing because we don't have an hour, we don't have a lot of time. Um, but I always do this with my mamas, and a whole lot can emerge in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So just giving yourself that intentional, focused time with some prompts um, can go a long way. So I want you to also just recognize how simple this can be. I'm very practical and I like to keep things simple. So don't overcomplicate it for yourself. Just give yourself those little windows of time and know that it does really matter. So one of our little fun phrases, we're not crazy, we are wild. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can share some takeaways, any questions, and just kind of wrap up. Okay. Yay, we did it. That went by fast, yeah. So I want to just have each of us, since we're a small group, just quickly just share your takeaway, and then I'll pass it to you, Whitney, if there's any questions that people have or if we want to wrap with anything. But I'd love to hear kind of what you're taking away from this. So let's see, we'll start with Jean H.
Well, I want to thank you, Tiffany. This was quite enlightening, and what I liked about it was just the little steps that you laid out to do this kind of reflection, because otherwise I wouldn't really know where to start,
Yeah.
thinking about any of this. And so that was really helpful. And
Good.
yeah, I was kind of surprised at some of my notes, but yeah, it was quite helpful. So I really thank you very much. It was very, very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Jean.
Mhm.
Sharon. Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're still muted. I don't know why. We'll come back. Oh, there you are.
Okay, there I
There you
am.
are. Yeah.
Might have detected that I'm not exactly technology oriented.
I did it earlier, so it's good.
I think that if I had timeout periods, to kind of review myself and what I'd like to keep and what I need to let go of, I think it still revolves around different stages of one's life, different
Hmm.
from when you're raising your family to when they go off to college or their
Hmm.
job or whatever they're doing. And then later, as they create another generation.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah, so I would like to have more family time. And right now, I think everybody in our little family is transitioning into busier times. So I need to look and see how much time I want to devote to family and how much time do I want to myself.
Yes, that's great. I love it. Thank you, Sharon. Kayla.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed how even just like small amounts of reflection already make me feel so much more connected to myself and just
Yeah.
aware. And I also like just kind of listing out, what do you need? It doesn't have to be anything huge or earth-shattering, but it's like anything small you can do in your day to kind of get you closer to what you need, I think is
Yeah.
worth doing.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you, Kayla. Whitney.
I think ditto everything Kayla just said. And then also what was really eye-opening for me were the 12 symptoms that you put down and how many that I have because I'm kind of running from thing to thing all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
just slowing down, taking those few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
I
rushing
love it.
all the time.
Yeah. Thank you. The other Jean.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for for granting our invitation. Thank you, Whitney. I'm very
Yeah.
lucky to be here, and this workshop is awesome. This is very informative and enlightening. And just like what you said, just a reminder to myself that to keep everything simple and not overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
That will.
Awesome. Thank you. And Corinne.
Hi. This was great. Thank you so much. I really love the idea of, or the way you named imperfect action. That's summer. I guess we're moving out of that, but I think it was just really like good to hear it phrased that way.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like people were mentioning, like small amounts of time of reflection can really give you a lot of momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of insight, a lot of momentum. It's all right there, but we're just sometimes just going too fast that we just miss it. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks y'all for spending time with me. This was awesome. I love facilitating reflection and having time to connect. And so I appreciate you all giving your time today.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Well,
Tiff.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know you have an exciting program you're launching in November, and you're looking for folks to nominate mamas. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. So at Wild Mama, we have a program. It's a cohort program. It's 12 weeks. And it's for mothers, but mothers at all stages. So you don't have to have little kids at home. It can be no kids at home anymore, but it's just anytime, any mother at any stage. But we are focused this specific cohort on mamas who are leaders in organizations or leaders in nonprofit or for-profit organizations, because we understand that so many mama leaders are burnt out, overwhelmed, overextended, and don't often get the support that they need. And so what's special about this cohort is we're actually having people nominate a mama or a few mamas that they know could use this level of deep support, because it just matters when you're seen. And when someone sees you amidst your flurry of busyness, it feels really special to be acknowledged, even if it doesn't align to them and they don't ultimately join. It's a nice gesture to nominate. So I'm accepting nominations for this cohort. It'll be a fall and winter cohort of the program. I can actually put in the chat my the website to the program, and it talks all about what the program is. And so we have that. And so if you all know of a mama in your life who could use deeper support and be in community with other mamas, that is a great way to do it. And so I don't know, Whitney, if how they would share that, but I can actually just give my email because there's not that many of you here anyway.
Yeah, well, we
But
will put your contact information.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and it will also be in our blog that goes out in our newsletter the second Saturday
Okay.
of October too.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So my email's here for those of you who are here, but that's a great way to send nominations. And then for anyone else who just is interested in aligning to seasonal rhythms and wants to practice that, we also have a membership called Wild Mama Well. And so it's literally like a virtual well where we can gather around the well and practice kind of aligning to seasons and to our goals. And we have workshops and all kinds of things like that. So I'll also make sure that that gets shared with you all as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you, Tiff.
Yeah, thank you.
Next month on November 6th for our Ask the Organizer event, we're going to be focusing on sustainability, and we'll have a special guest panel to talk about it may be tricky to recycle items. What actually happens to our items after we recycle them? Do they truly get recycled? What are some options for reducing the number of things we need to recycle? Like, how do we stop the inflow and make a greater impact on the other end of the spectrum, right? So we'll be talking about all of those things in November. We hope you can join us. And Tiff, we are so grateful to have had you with us today. Thank you so much for leading this workshop. It's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I hope to stay connected to you all. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Have a great evening.
You.
Enjoy.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.